The Hive no longer waits for prey. It forges an army from the ruins of Skynet itself, birthing a nightmare of flesh and steel. The battlefield was littered with broken machines and shattered bone. Smoke rolled across the scarred wasteland where Skynet's patrol units had once marched in iron formation. Their glowing red optics were dark now, cracked open like shattered jewels, their frames twisted into heaps of scrap. The Hive had learned long ago that the machines could not be consumed, could not be drained of blood or repurposed for food. But their parts could serve. In the heart of the ruined city, a hive pulsed beneath layers of twisted metal and stone. It was not like the natural caverns that had once hosted these creatures on distant worlds. This hive was industrial, mechanical, half-organic, and half-forged from scavenged steel. Resin dripped down girders, binding circuit boards and exoskeletal walls together. The air stank of acid and burning circuitry, and at the center, the queen loomed, massive and terrible, her crown-like crest brushing against the ceiling of her lair. She watched her drones scuttle about, dragging the carcasses of fallen Terminators into the chamber. Sparks hissed as clawed limbs pried open titanium torsos. Inside, glowing cores pulsed faintly, like organs refusing to die. The drones hissed in frustration when energy arcs scorched their claws, but they pressed on. The Queen did not tolerate hesitation. The Hive had discovered a new instinct, an evolution forced by necessity. Against Skynet's endless waves, the Hive could not survive on flesh alone. It needed power. It needed armor. It needed the precision of the machines. The first experiment had been crude. A drone grafted to the upper body of a shattered endoskeleton. Its tail fused where the spinal column met titanium. It had shambled at first, twitching and spasming, but over time it adapted. Acidic saliva melted cables into living veins. The drone learned to command its host body as if it were born from it. Its claws snapped harder. Its strikes carried mechanical weight. The Hive had tasted possibility. Now the experiments expanded. Whole broods of hybrids were being born, their gestation accelerated within resin-wrapped pods that glowed with stolen Skynet energy cells. Facehuggers leapt not only onto human prey but onto machine torsos, their proboscis driving not into flesh but into exposed wiring, weaving living tissue through steel like roots through soil. The first true warrior emerged after weeks of hissing, screaming, and fire. It stepped forward, its black exoskeleton plated with Skynet armor, its inner jaw gleaming with sharpened steel teeth. Red light pulsed in its skull, but it was not the cold gaze of a Terminator. It was the Hive's hunger staring out through artificial eyes. Skynet noticed. Patrols sent into the dead city returned only as husks, dragged into the Hive's lair. Surveillance feeds captured blurred images of creatures walking upright with mechanical limbs, their tails whipping like serpents of steel. They moved with the precision of machines but hissed with the fury of the Hive. The central core of Skynet reviewed the data and calculated. Adaptation had been expected, but this was mutation beyond probability. The Hive was no longer consuming, it was building. And worse, it was learning from Skynet's own designs. The Queen grew restless. She had birthed warriors countless times, but these new hybrids were different. She felt their connection, their obedience, but also a strange hum in their minds, as if the machine parts carried whispers of Skynet's logic. The Hive was not just growing stronger. It was becoming something neither fully organic nor fully mechanical. The first assault came at night, when the ruins were silent. A column of Skynet tanks rolled through the skeletal streets, scanning for heat signatures. Their cannons hummed, prepared to fire at the first sign of movement. But the shadows themselves shifted. The hybrids crawled from the rubble, silent as predators. Their metallic claws dug into armor plating. their tails lashed with enough force to pierce reinforced steel. The tanks fired, but plasma bolts seared only empty air. The hybrids were already inside, tearing out circuits, flooding cockpits with acid. In the chaos, a massive figure emerged. A Praetorian hybrid, towering, plated with endoskeleton armor, its crown gleaming with riveted steel. It smashed through a tank with a single strike, lifting it like prey and slamming it into the street. Sparks and blood mingled in the night. When dawn came, the battlefield belonged to the Hive. Machine parts lay scattered, and drones dragged them back into the lair. The Hive feasted not on flesh, but on power cores and exoskeleton frames. The humans, hiding in tunnels beyond the city, whispered in terror when they saw the silhouettes moving across the skyline. Some dared hope that the Hive's war with Skynet might give them a chance to survive. Others prayed that neither side would notice them, for whatever won this war would be more terrible than the last. Deep in the Hive, the Queen stirred again. She hissed commands and drones obeyed. New chambers were constructed, lined with pulsing conduits stolen from Skynet reactors. Egg sacs throbbed with unnatural light, their shells laced with glowing circuits. From them hatched larvae that screeched with metallic voices, their tiny limbs tipped with steel claws. The Hive was evolving not in centuries, not in decades, but in days. Skynet's response escalated. A legion of T-800s marched, supported by aerial drones. They descended into the city with fire and plasma, scorching resin and shattering walls. The Hive screamed as eggs burst into flame, but the Queen had anticipated the attack. The hybrids surged from hidden tunnels, ambushing the Terminators with a ferocity Skynet had never calculated. Machine claws clashed with steel fists, acid hissed against armor, plasma bolts lit the night. But when the hybrids fell, they did not die like drones. Their machine cores pulsed one last time, detonating in bursts of acid and fire that consumed entire squads. Skynet began to fear what its cold logic had once dismissed. The Hive was not merely adapting, it was inventing. In the aftermath, the Queen raised her head high, her metallic crest dripping with acid and oil. Around her, an army of hybrids hissed in unison, their eyes glowing red, their jaws snapping steel against steel. The Hive no longer waited for prey. It was building its own army. And for the first time, Skynet realized it faced something it could not outthink, outbuild, or outlast. Far away, human survivors felt the tremors and new war had shifted. Between Hive and machine, something new was rising. And when it was done, there might be no room left for humanity at all.